years old, and this has happened to him in those years. He went into the Marine Corps and was a radar operator. He was released of his duties. He was in Formosa at the time and defected to the Russians. He asked for citizenship. The Russians would not give him citizenship, so he returned to this country. He is married, has 2 children. His wife, Russian-born, she was here in Dallas today and brought into the police station. She speaks only Russian. They had great difficulty in interrogating her. They finally did find an interpreter.
No, don't go.
In addition, speaking with Captain Fritz during the day at the police station, he said that Oswald had admitted being a pro-Castroite, and the question was then asked, does this mean that this man is a communist? And Captain Fritz said, well, anyone who's pro-Castro, in my book, is a communist. So Lee Oswald is now charged with murder, not only of a Dallas patrolman, but of the President of the United States. Bob Clark, you were here and in the motorcade as it left Love Field. Could you describe to us what happened?
Yes, I believe we have some more film coming up of the start of the motorcade from the airport, the rather long journey down into downtown Dallas. This was a gay scene throughout the entire distance. This is one of the largest and most enthusiastic, most friendly crowds the President has encountered anywhere in his journeys across the country. There were probably at least 150,000, perhaps as many as 200,000 people along the streets. The crowd's getting heavier as the motorcade entered the downtown area. The President stood up from time to time and waved. The First Lady waved at the crowds. This was a rare appearance of the President and Mrs. Kennedy on a campaign-style trip. The First Lady, you'll recall, had made it known a week or so ago that she had planned to do frequent campaigning with the President during next year's pre-election period.
Next to introduce the eyewitness account.
Bob, I believe you were here at the scene as we
This is immediately, just seconds after the President was shot. You saw the policeman draw his gun. I was there and looked over a balcony and saw the people running toward up the grass, lying down, trying to get out of the... nobody knew where the shots were coming from. There was pandemonium. I looked over the little balcony just as the President's car took off around the corner at an excessive rate of speed, and it was complete pandemonium at that moment. Nobody knew. Everybody thought there was firecrackers or something like that.
I was in a pool press car at this stage, just 3 cars behind the presidential limousine in the motorcade. There was pandemonium, but total confusion at this point. Hardly anyone who was more than 30 or 40 feet away from the presidential limousine realized that the President had been shot.
That's at the hospital now, isn't it?
Yes, the motorcade raced on immediately to the hospital. This was a scene at this point. Those of us who were in this pool car leaped out and ran to the side of the limousine. The President lay stretched out on the back seat of his limousine, his head cradled in the lap of the First Lady.
And I'm sure you saw the pictures of the bouquet that Mrs. Kennedy was presented at Love Field in the back seat of the limousine there at Parkland Hospital. Well, how did it happen? Who saw it happen? We have some eyewitness reports. ABC's Bill Lord interviewed some people. First, a Dallas policeman, an eyewitness to the shooting.
Jim Chaney. I understand that you were riding next to the President's car when the assassination took place. I was riding on the right rear fender. What happened? Well, we had proceeded west on Elm Street at approximately 15 to 20 miles an hour. When we heard the first shot, I thought it was a motorcycle backfiring. And I looked back over to my left, and also President Kennedy looked back over his left shoulder. Then when the second shot came, I looked back just in time to see the President struck in the face by the second bullet. He slunk forward into Ms. Kennedy's lap, and when it was apparent to me that we were being fired upon, went ahead of the president's car to inform Chief Curry that the president had been hit. And then he instructed us over there to take him to Parkland Hospital, and he had Parkland Hospital stand by. I went on up ahead of notify the officers that were leading the escort that he had been hit and was going to have to move out.
You did not see the person who fired the shot?
No, sir. It was back over my right shoulder.
What preventive measures had been taken to preclude such an incident?
I don't know what had done that part of town.
All right, fine. Thank you.
Let's go.
This patrolman was so close to the president that following the 3 shots, his uniform was spattered with blood. There were many witnesses to the assassination, many of them people who had come to town early in the day to find a place to watch the president and the First Lady, and I talked to one who saw it happen and took a picture.
And I took the picture. It so happened my picture, when I took it, was at the same instant that the president was hit. And that does show in my picture.
What does the picture look like?
It shows the president, he slumped. Jackie Kennedy was leaning towards him to see. I guess it all happened so suddenly, I don't think anyone realized, what had happened.
Did you realize what had happened when you heard the shots?
No, I didn't. There was, 3 or 4 real close together. And it was, must have been the first one that shot him, because that was the time I took the picture. And during that time, after I took the picture, and the shots were still being fired, I decided I'd better get on the ground.
Did people lie down on the ground?
I just know about myself and the ones right close to me. And, well, really, I just know about myself.
You did lie down?
I did. I was no more than 15 foot from the car and in line of fire, evidently.
Did Mrs. Kennedy scream on the first shot?
I don't know about the first shot, but she did scream. She says, "My God, he's been hit," or "he's been shot."
And the president fell in Mrs. Kennedy's arms?
No, I think he just slumped into the seat. She jumped up over him, and during the time when she jumped up, of course, the car sped away real fast.
Now, the picture you took, I understand the FBI has it now.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you very much. In addition, there were some 8mm color motion pictures taken at the time, and these also are in the hands of the FBI and the Secret Service.
In the very early morning hours of November 23rd, Lee Harvey Oswald has been charged with the murders of President Kennedy and Dallas policeman J.D. Tippit. It has been a long day for government officials, the Dallas police, and reporters as well. And it is now apparent that nothing more will happen with the prisoner Oswald until morning. Channel 8 program director Jay Watson, news director Bob Walker, ABC's Bob Clark, and Bill Lord are wrapping up the final local broadcast of the night.
Now the question comes up, where did the shooting take place? What was the location? We have some film of that now for you. This is the Texas School Book Depository. The officer crawling into the building. The gun was found, as I understand it, 1 story up from where the officer crawled in.
Actually, the gun, that would be the 5th floor.
Yes.
Both the gun and the expended shells were found there. It has been well established by this time that the 3 shots were fired from a 5th floor window.
The police still thought there was a possibility, even 45 minutes after the president had been assassinated, that the assassin was still in the building. Therefore, they surrounded it. There were as many policemen there as anywhere else in Dallas.
One of our cameramen in the newsroom, one of the boys, got in the building and couldn't get out, and this film was tossed out of the window. They completely sealed it in. They're searching the building there to see if the man is still there or if the assailant is still there. And the gun was found. Also, particles of food, I think a box of chicken or something like that. So it could have been in there for 1 day, 2, nobody knows. And I guess time will only tell how long he was hiding in the building.
There is still some question tonight whether Mr. Kennedy was struck by 1 or 2 bullets. This is the gun that fired the shots. There have been conflicting reports on whether it's a German make or a gun that was manufactured in Argentina. You see the telescopic sight,
which gave him 4 power magnification.
But the doctors told us at the hospital this afternoon that it was impossible to say from the wounds whether Mr. Kennedy had been hit by only 1 bullet or by 2. Only an autopsy can determine this.
Police officials carefully dusted the gun, but the word was that there were either no prints on the gun or they would not care to comment on it.
I heard just a few moments ago, or in discussion a little earlier, that the president was hit twice, once in the chest and one in the back of the head. Now we're back out to Parkland Hospital, and I think you were out there, Bob.
This is back at the hospital, and this was perhaps the most poignant scene of the day, when the official announcement that the president was dead. This came at this stage from Wayne Hawks, a veteran member of the White House staff. This is one of the doctors one of the team of 10 doctors who treated the president frantically for some 15 minutes after he arrived at the hospital before his death. The scene again outside the hospital, where scores of mourners gathered in small groups. This was repeated within the hospital,
and throughout the city, we might add.
I think this pretty well depicts the entire feeling of the nation and the world at this moment.
There was considerable confusion within the hospital at this stage. It was almost an hour after the president was shot before the official announcement that he had been killed. Many of the members of the hospital staff, the doctors and nurses themselves, were uncertain at this stage. The Secret Service was maintaining very tight security.
Now the president's hearse, Bob, moving out.
Yes.
On his way to Love Field. Mrs. Kennedy is inside. The curtains are tightly drawn. And as it leaves Parkland Hospital, carrying him to Air Force One, Texas Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth, there is a plane carrying President Lyndon B. Johnson and former President John F. Kennedy back to Washington.
While the concern is about the president, also a policeman was killed in Dallas. Bob, do you have that story? We have a picture of him here.
38-year-old J.D. Tippett was gunned down trying to apprehend Lee Oswald. This man had been cited for bravery before, but today he was shot down while trying to arrest the man in the Texas Theater in Fort Worth. In Dallas, rather. Here is the Texas Theater, which is in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas. Now the policeman rushing to the scene.
This is where the policeman was shot here in the home, I believe, isn't it, Bob? Or was he shot in the theater?
He was shot at the theater, the best we can gather.
We might add these are exclusive films of the capture of Lee Oswald.
Looking over the weapon that murdered the policeman and checking the wallet taken from the suspect, Oswald, who has been charged, there is the very quick film of the movement of Oswald out of the theater where he was arrested into a squad car for a trip downtown, which was of course, just culminated minutes ago when Oswald was charged with the murder of the late President Kennedy. Now downtown, Dallas Police Department.
Oswald's face was considerably bruised when we saw him later, and this is, according to police, the result of there he is, a very heavy scuffle with the police at the theater. Two of the policemen sprained ankles in trying to get the man. He saw them come in and said, "Okay, this is it." And a fight ensued, and of course there were 4 policemen who finally got him.
Right, and now we're going to hear Police Sergeant Jerry Hill describe some of the action that took place with the apprehension of Oswald at the theater. A veteran Police Sergeant Jerry Hill of the Dallas Police Force, who was on hand and who assisted in the capture of him. And we have a film of Hill's description of it himself. We thought we would bring you that next, as well as some scenes. We may repeat that Lee Oswald has been charged now with murder here in Dallas of the late President John F. Kennedy. And he has not signed a statement, he has not admitted to anything, but he has been charged with murder. Henry Wade, the DA in Dallas, said the case will probably be brought to the grand jury by the middle of next week. And now let's hear Sergeant Hill's description of the apprehension of the man charged with the murder of the late president.
That we had of the suspect in Oak Cliff was similar to the description we had and the man we were looking for as the assassin, but at that time we had not been able to connect the two in any way.
The only discrepancy was 2 inches in height, is that correct?
Approximately 2 inches in height was the only discrepancy in the description of the man who killed Officer Tippit and the man who shot the president.
What was the description of that man?
He was described as 5'6" to 5'8", slight build, brown hair, having on a jacket, white shirt, and dark trousers. Actually, the suspect is about 5'10", and had discarded the jacket, which we found in the Oak Cliff area near a funeral home in the 400 block of East Jefferson. And at the time we arrested the suspect, his pistol was again fully loaded, and we had a witness that said he saw the suspect stop long enough to reload his pistol after shooting the officer.
What did you find in the building? Where the president was?
In the building, on the 6th floor, we found an area that near a window that had partially been blocked off by boxes of books, and also the 3 spent shells that had apparently been fired from a rifle. Also, we found the remnants of what could have been a meal eaten by the suspect of a chicken dinner. At that time, I left the building, and later I understand that in the same general vicinity, under some boxes, the rifle that was used was found. The man did not make any definite statement other than demanding to see a lawyer and demanding his rights when we arrested him. He did not volunteer any information to us at all. The only way we found out what his name was to remove his billfold and check it ourselves. He wouldn't tell us what his name was.
What do you believe that he is the same man who killed the police officer?
Having been in it from the very beginning, as far as the officer's death is concerned, I am convinced that he is the man who killed the officer. Now, to tie in on the rest of it will have to be established by somebody else as to whether the two situations are related. Other circumstances that are taking place in another part of the investigation, other than what I've been connected with, will have to be proved to tie the two together.
Bill, I think Bill here has a footnote to that.
It's interesting to note that Lee Oswald at first admitted nothing about the incident today. Then he said he had been in the building where the shots had been fired at the time of the shooting. And then a little later it was established that he had actually worked in the building and had been employed there as a clerk for approximately 2 months.
Now, by means of videotape, we have a statement from Julian Reed, who is the press secretary for Governor Connally. This was given early this evening. There will be no more reports.
On condition.
Further word for you on Governor Connally's condition. I've just talked with Dr. Shaw, who visited with you earlier. The governor is just finishing up in the operating room. He has been in there since 1:30, which means he will have almost 4 hours in the operating room.
He is continuing in a satisfactory condition. The doctor is pleased. He says all damage has been arrested at this point, and at this point we need only await supporting care. He will be moved in just a few minutes to the recovery room. A room just adjacent to him already has been set up for Mrs. Conley, who will remain there overnight and indefinitely.
There will be no more reports on the condition of Governor John Conley until 7:30 tomorrow morning, Dallas time. Last word, the governor is in some considerable pain, but is resting comfortably and has not yet been told of the late President Kennedy's death. A man who can eloquently sum up the feelings of what has occurred in Dallas, Texas today is the Dallas mayor, Earl Cabell, who gave us this statement earlier tonight. So here is the mayor of Dallas, Earl Cabell, with a statement.
Tonight, Dallas is shocked and stricken with grief because of the assassination of our president, John F. Kennedy. To no other guest in the history of Dallas has such a spontaneous and enthusiastic welcome been extended as was the case for our president. Yet, the irrational act of a single man has tragically marred the spirit generated in Dallas today. All possible security precautions were taken by our police force on their own and in collaboration with the Secret Service. It was a thing that could not happen, and yet it did happen. Still, this is not the time to single out for criticism any individual or any group not directly involved in this tragedy. This could only be the act of a deranged mind. And yet, each of us, in prayerful reflection, must search his heart and determine if through intemperate word or intemperate deed we might have contributed in some fashion to the movement of this mind across the brink of insanity. Mrs. Cabell and I join our city in extending our sympathies to the Kennedy family and to say that our prayers are for them as they are for our new chief executive and our nation and the world.
Dallas Mayor Earl Cabell. And now for further reports, we take you to ABC newsman Roger Sharp, reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters.
With me here on the third floor of the Dallas Police Station is Justice of the Peace David Johnston of the 2nd Precinct of Dallas County, before whom suspect Lee Oswald was formally charged tonight with the murder of President Kennedy. Judge Johnston, could you read for us the official affidavit?
This is in the name of and by the authority of the state of Texas. Personally appeared before me, the undersigned authority, this affiant, who after being by me duly sworn disposes and says, your affiant has good reason to believe and does believe that one Lee Harvey Oswald, hereinafter styled defendant, heretofore on or about the 22nd day of November, A.D. 1963, in the county of Dallas and state of Texas, did then and there unlawfully, voluntarily, and with malice of forethought kill John F. Kennedy by shooting him with a gun. Against the peace and dignity of the state, attested by J.W. Fritz, affiant, sworn to and subscribed before me this 22nd day of November 1963, Henry Wade, Criminal District Attorney, Dallas County, Texas, which complaint was then passed to me at 11:26 p.m. and filed as cause number F-154, the state of Texas versus Lee Harvey Oswald for the offense of murder.
Did you read this before the suspect?
This complaint has not been read to the suspect. The prior complaint filed at a little after 7 o'clock last night was read to the defendant, and he was advised that he was remanded to the custody of the sheriff of Dallas County with no bond as a capital offense.
What was his reaction when the affidavit was read?
He had a few little remarks to make. I don't remember them exactly. He had a little misunderstanding about what this formal arraignment was of it appraising him of the charges that had been brought against him.
Judge Johnston, is this normal routine for a homicide?
This is the normal procedure in the state of Texas.
And both affidavits charging him with the murder of the president and the murder of Patrolman Tippett are identical?
Other than the name of John F. Kennedy inserted on one and the name of Officer Tippett on the other, and of course the time they were filed.
What is your personal reaction to the suspect?
I have not been with him long enough to have formed any personal feeling about the man. I can't say anything at all about him because I was only in the room with him for some 5 or so minutes to arraign him on the first count.
He now has been formally booked and taken to an isolated cell on the 5th floor of this same building. Apparently there will be some more questioning tonight. What legally are the next steps in a case such as this?
The defendant can now either be brought before my court for an examining trial, at which time the certain evidences will be introduced to sustain the no bond set in the capital offense to establish that the offense has been committed. This can also in Texas be waived, and if it is waived, then it goes to the grand jury. If the hearing is held, then it is passed to the grand jury for their action.
What would you expect from this case?
This you cannot say, because when he does have legal counsel, that counsel could ask for an examining trial, and under the rules of the Texas law, he is entitled to this prior to his indictment by the grand jury.
Thank you very much, Judge Johnston.
Thank you, sir.
Justice of the Peace David Johnston of the 2nd Precinct of Dallas County, before whom the suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald, was formally charged tonight, early this morning, with the assassination of President John Kennedy. He read to you the formal affidavit. The suspect, as we said, is now on the 5th floor of this building where he was being held under heavy guard in an isolated cell of the city jail. He more than likely will be questioned again by interrogators during the night and again tomorrow. The District Attorney Henry Wade stated that he believed the case would more than likely go before the grand jury here in Dallas sometime the middle of next week. That's the story up to the minute from Dallas. This is Roger Sharp reporting.
And there you have the complete wrap-up. This is Bob Walker speaking in behalf of the entire ABC News team here at WFAA-TV in Dallas with Jay Watson, Bob Clark, Bill Lord, wishing you a good night, a good morning from Dallas, Texas. Now back to ABC News in New York.
I think it would not be inappropriate at this time to say that all of us at ABC News in New York are intensely proud of the job that has been done by our staff at WFAA-TV today in covering this story under very difficult circumstances, particularly in the early hours.
It is early morning, November 23rd, 1963. The world is waking from a day that will long be remembered, a day that had started out in triumph with a breakfast in Fort Worth and a crowd of supporters to greet the president at Dallas Love Field. But it turned to tragedy as the presidential motorcade passed by the schoolbook depository on Elm Street. Shots rang out. The motorcade raced to Parkland Hospital, and doctors worked in vain to save the life of the president. A high-powered rifle was found, and a suspect was apprehended at the Texas Theater in Oak Cliff after a police officer had been shot and killed. The suspect was Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who had defected to the Soviet Union. Oswald spent the night at the Dallas City Jail after hours of interrogation. We pick up the coverage early Saturday morning in the Channel 8 studios with news director Bob Walker.
Today in Dallas, the former president of the United States was slain. The governor of the state of Texas was shot. Governor John Connally was riding in the front seat of the car, which carried former President John F. Kennedy. He was taken immediately to Parkland Hospital, where he underwent a 4.5-hour operation. And we are happy to report this morning that Governor Connally's condition is satisfactory, that he has been taken off the critical list. And we understand that Mrs. Connally spent the night at the hospital with the governor. And now for further details on some of the Dallas reaction and what's gone on, we switch now to ABC's Paul Good.
This city is waking up to the morning after its tragedy, a tragedy still hard for the imagination to encompass. And this will be a day of prayer in Dallas, with all churches open. and the prayers of Dallas will be echoed around the world. The man who stands accused of killing the president faces another round of questioning as local officials try to break down his story that he's not implicated. So far, there have been no incidents in the city, but a common question that's heard everywhere is why? Why must Dallas bear this shame? It's a city in a state of shock, still finding it hard to believe what it knows has happened. In this respect, Dallas resembles the rest of the world, but feeling it more personally. The president's death, of course, has tremendous implications on the domestic, political, and the international scene. But this morning in Dallas, it's still the loss of John F. Kennedy as a man that fills the imagination and turns the heart to prayer. And now for a description of what happened at police headquarters, here is Bill Lord at City Police Headquarters.
Lee Harvey Oswald, accused of killing the President of the United States and a Dallas police patrolman, stayed here overnight in the jail some 2 floors above me. He was in an isolated cell. Prisoners had been moved away from the area. A thorough search of his clothing by policemen and of his person by a doctor revealed no hidden weapons, such as pills or razor blades that could be used to commit suicide. Additional precautions were taken. A resuscitator was placed near the cell in case it was needed, and a doctor was on duty during the night here in the municipal building. The cell was lit normally by normal lighting. They did not turn the lights out because they did want to see him at all times. There were 2 or 3 patrolmen watching him throughout the evening. As for sleep, if he did get any sleep, it amounted to perhaps a half an hour. During much of the night, he tossed and turned. He got up from one of the 2 bunks in the cell, walked about, and at one point initiated an hour-long conversation with one of the guards. He talked to him about his family, his home, his 2 children. He also talked to the guard about Russia, and the guard said his description of Russia was complimentary. At 1:35 this morning, a complaint was read. It charged that, quote, Lee Harvey Oswald did voluntarily and with malice aforethought kill John F. Kennedy by shooting him with a gun, end quote. Following the reading of the complaint, Oswald said, that's ridiculous. Since the felony charge includes the phrase, with malice aforethought, Oswald is being held without bail. There are now 2 murder charges pending against him, and it is anticipated that later today, a charge of attempting to murder the governor of the state will also be filed. We expect to be seeing Mr. Oswald in these corridors again today as we did yesterday, because it is anticipated that there will be a great deal more questioning occurring here in Dallas during the next few hours. This is Bill Lord reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters.
Our WFAA TV mobile cruiser will be on hand at City Hall throughout the day to bring you further reports, and we will do the same. This is Bob Walker in Dallas, and now back to ABC News in New York.
I'd say another 10, 15 minutes at least before President Johnson leaves his home here in residential Washington to go downtown to the Executive Office Building for his first appointment of the day with Secretary of State Dean Rusk, and for his first full day as the 36th President of the United States.
We interrupt the ABC network coverage a moment here from our Channel 8 studios at Communications Center in Dallas. Perhaps nobody better stated the sentiments and the feelings of the people of Dallas, and in fact the entire world last night, than did Dallas Mayor Earl Cabell. And so now we bring you the words of Dallas Mayor Earl Cabell shortly after the president had died.
Tonight, Dallas is shocked and stricken with grief because of the assassination of our president, John F. Kennedy. To no other guest in the history of Dallas has such a spontaneous and enthusiastic welcome been extended, as was the case for our president. Yet, the irrational act of a single man has tragically marred the spirit generated in Dallas today. All possible security precautions were taken by our police force on their own and in collaboration with the Secret Service. It was a thing that could not happen, and yet it did happen. Still, this is not the time to single out for criticism any individual or any group not directly involved in this tragedy. This could only be the act of a deranged mind. And yet, each of us, in prayerful reflection, must search his heart and determine if through intemperate word or intemperate deed we might have contributed in some fashion to the movement of this mind across the brink of insanity. Mrs. Cabell and I join our city in extending our sympathies to the Kennedy family and to say that our prayers are for them as they are for our new chief executive and our nation and the world.
Bob Walker at the WFAA TV newsroom in Dallas. 24-year-old Lee H. Oswald was formally charged with the murder of President John F. Kennedy last night at 26 minutes past 11 Dallas time, and Oswald is now still in the city jail in downtown Dallas. For a late interview and report from there, we switch you now to City Hall downtown, where ABC's Bob Clark is standing by with an interview with Assistant Dallas Chief Stevenson.
This is Bob Clark, ABC at Dallas Police Headquarters. Deputy Chief M.W. Stevenson has been on duty here all night, helping to direct this investigation. Chief, can you tell us something about how Oswald spent the night here in his cell?
Well, as you know, shortly before midnight last night, charges of murder in connection with the death of the president was filed. He was then arraigned and was placed in his cell, and to my knowledge, he has had a restful night. We have had no trouble in the jail. We have had a security guard on him through the night.
There will presumably be further questioning of Oswald this morning.
Of course, as to what our further actions or investigations will be at this time would be purely speculation. I don't know at what time we will question him or what further investigations we will take up. That will be governed by the circumstances as they come up in the investigation.
Are there any other suspects in this case besides...
To my knowledge, at the present time, no.
We understand the murder weapon, the rifle that was found in the building where the shots were fired, has been sent to the FBI in Washington.
That is right.
Well, can you tell us whether there were any fingerprints found on that rifle?
To my knowledge, I don't know.
How about the
until we hear from the laboratory.
How about the empty shells that were found in the building? Have they also been sent to the FBI?
I believe they were.
There is no question at this point that this was the murder weapon.
Well, I wouldn't say that because we are not through with our test and our investigation. We're satisfied in our own mind that it was, but to say definitely we must complete our investigation and our tests.
Where is Oswald at this moment?
He is in the cell on the 4th floor of the city jail.
Has he had breakfast?
I believe he has. I believe they feed up there at about 8.
Can you tell us what activities are going on at the moment as far as investigation of the case goes?
No, sir, I cannot. I wouldn't be in a position to divulge information on that, on investigation that we have underway until we have completed.
Could you say whether any new evidence has been uncovered, any evidence in addition to the murder weapon and the...
Not since we stopped last night when the case was filed. No additional evidence has come up to my knowledge since that time.
Chief, thank you very much. This is Bob Clark, ABC at Dallas Police Headquarters.
A bright yellow sun arose over the city of Dallas this morning, but it greeted a different Dallas than was yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, an air of anticipation hung over the city as both citizens in Dallas and Fort Worth were already at this hour yesterday morning crowding out to Love Field to greet the President of the United States and his wife as they were coming to Dallas from a stop in Fort Worth and a speech earlier in the day. Today it's somewhat different. The city is very quiet. The city is very hushed. People I met and talked to on my way down to the studio this morning were talking quietly about the events of yesterday and what happened. Also, we may report at this time that the latest report we have on Texas Governor John Connally from Parkland Hospital is that the governor is in satisfactory condition and that he has spent a very comfortable night, and the doctors are very well pleased with his prognostication at this time. Lee Oswald is an admitted pro-Castro man and has once lived in and has sought citizenship in Russia. He was charged last night here in Dallas at 11:26 with the murder of the late President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Now we're going to show you some scenes of the press briefing and the press showing, a formal showing to the members of the press of the suspect after he had been charged with the murder of the late President Kennedy. This is in the assembly room at Dallas City Hall. Oswald being shown between the two detectives. He did say a few things. Mainly, I don't know, I didn't know anything about this until I got here. And of course, he has steadfastly denied any connection at all with the fatal shooting of the late president. Earlier in the night, you'll remember, he had been charged with the murder of a Dallas police officer. And then later last night, about a half an hour before midnight, he was formally charged with the murder of the late President Kennedy. And now we have an interview with District Attorney Henry Wade.
Mr. Wade, has he been found? Of his right. He's been charged with both killing Officer Tippin and John F. Kennedy.
Can you detail any of the evidence against him so far?
No, we're still working on the evidence. This has been a joint effort by the Secret Service, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Dallas Police Department, the Dallas Sheriff's Office, my office, and Captain Will Fritz has been in charge of it. He denies it.
How long ago was he charged with the president's killing?
11/26. He was that 11/26. He was charged on the latter charge.
He really have a good case. To charge him with the murder of President Kennedy. On what basis?
Evidence gathered by the four agencies mentioned.
You've got a good case?
I figure we have sufficient evidence to convict him.
Was this, is there any indication that this was an organized plot, or was it just one man?
There's no one else but him. So far.
No one else but him so far.
Any reason why he name and so forth and so on? No, we have further questioning to do. Now, we'll probably let him sleep tonight, then talk to him in the morning.
Where will he be held, sir?
Sir?
What was his motive?
He didn't give any motive since he denies them both. I don't know whether he has or not. His mother has been here and his brother has been here all afternoon.
Does he appear sane to you?
Yes, he does.
Is he a member of any communist front organization?
That I can't say at the present time.
Any organizations that he belongs to that you know of?
Well, the only one I mentioned was the Free Cuba movement, or whatever that. Fair Play. Fair Play for Cuba, I believe was that.
Why do you think he would want to kill the president?
The only thing I do is take the evidence, present it to jury, and I don't pass on why he did it or anything else. We're just interested in proving that he did it, which I think we have.
He's got a good case.
Did he struggle under arrest?
There was a struggle at the time of the arrest. There was a struggle in the Texas theater when a Dallas police officer was arresting him, and the pistol was snapped at another police officer's head and didn't fire. At that time, a scuffle ensued inside of the Texas theater where he was arrested by 6 officers.
Sir, had that pistol been previously discharged?
Yes. Twice.
Had he told anyone he planned to kill the president?
He hasn't admitted killing the president to anyone.
Do you have any reason to believe that there was any organization behind it?
How is it he says it has not been mentioned to him?
Well, I don't know what he said. He says he didn't do it.
You know his place of birth?
I do not.
Age and so forth on specifications on that. What is his correct age, please?
24, I believe. Full name? Full name is Lee Harvey Oswald, O-S-W-A-L-D.
What are the names of his mother? Mr. Wade? Has he been in trouble before in Fort Worth or Dallas?
I think he has been in Dallas only 2 months.
Where does he come from?
From where? From where? New Orleans.
What is his mother's name?
I do not have that with me.
We understand that he defected to Russia at one time.
Are you gratified, Mr. District Attorney, that this case has been closed so soon after the incident?
Where is he? There's others that we are going to, we hope to get more. We know we have more that we know. They're on their way to Washington at present. The rifle.
Both guns?
Both guns.
How many children? Can you say whether you have a witness who says he saw his man pull the trigger?
No, I cannot.
What was the result of the paraphrase test?
I don't think he gave any reason.
Where are you going to move him to?
Dallas County Jail.
How much longer do you plan to question this man tonight?
No longer, I don't think.
You're through for the night.
I am, yes. The cells, as I understand.
President, has he been officially advised that he's charged with that sentence?
I do not know. He has just been charged. I have no advice of the other than taken before the magistrate.
But we do have an interview with Officer Paul Benton, who assisted in the capture of Lee Oswald in the Texas Theater, which occurred about an hour and a half after President Kennedy was shot.
He fought with us like a wild man, and we finally subdued him and took him on out, put him in a police car and brought him into the Homicide Bureau.
Who did he aim the gun at?
The gun wasn't necessarily aimed. He started to pull it up to aim it, and Officer McDonald had a hold of the gun. I had a hold of his right arm. We got a thumb or something in between the hammer and the firing pin to prevent it from actually firing, and it just snapped slightly and kept it from going off.
It didn't misfire. In other words, you prevented it from firing.
Yes, a hand was possibly prevented from firing.
But there was a bullet in the chamber.
Definitely so, and it had been hit with a firing pin, but not enough to go off.
Did he say what was reported about he got him a president?
No, sir, I didn't hear that.
What did he say to you after he was arrested?
He just said, this is it. It's all over with now.
Anything else?
Give any indication that he thought you were looking for him in connection with the president's assassination?
No.
Did you say you put your thumb or your finger on it?
Don't know. It was in the scuffle there. We don't know whether the thumb, finger, or hand. I got a bruised hand from it. I don't know.
Did you have the feeling that gun had been used before?
I don't know. I didn't look at it enough to say for sure.
This was a darkened theater, wasn't it, sir?
No, we had the lights on.
You had the lights on?
Lights were on.
What kind of attitude would you say he had? An arrogant one?
Very belligerent, arrogant attitude throughout the whole thing.
Did he mention Russia or communism or anything to you?
No, he did not.
He didn't mention the president or anything like that?
No, he did not.
This is it, it's all over now.
That's right.
Did he ever talk in a foreign language?
No, he did not.
Do you think he had any compass?
I don't know. I didn't see any others. No.
Mr. Mendez, are you familiar with this subject?
No,
This is a Dallas police detective describing how Oswald was captured yesterday in a Dallas theater.
This is Detective Paul Bentley, who was among the officers who was arrested.
Detective Paul Benton of the Dallas Police Force, one of the police officers who was on hand and participated in the arrest, the capture of Oswald yesterday in a Dallas theater. This was about an hour and a half after the assassination of President Kennedy.
The eyes of the world are focused on the third floor of the Dallas City Hall. Here, hundreds of newsmen are packed in a small corridor, awaiting Lee Oswald to be brought down to homicide for questioning on Saturday morning. Among them, ABC's Bob Clark.
This crowd of some 50 reporters and photographers is waiting here at Dallas Police Headquarters for Lee Oswald, the 24-year-old ex-Marine who is accused of killing President Kennedy. Oswald, at this moment, as far as we know, is still in his cell in the police jail, in the Dallas City Jail, one floor above us. We expect that in a few minutes he'll come through this door, be taken down this corridor into the Homicide Bureau, then taken on downstairs to a police conference room, presumably for further questioning. As of this moment, Oswald has admitted nothing. He denies killing President Kennedy. He also denies killing, has made no formal admission that he has killed a Dallas policeman. At the moment, we don't know what will happen next, but we believe this will be the scene of activity right at this point.
As the time goes by, more and more reporters arrive, but still no Oswald. And then Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry comes down the hall and is descended upon by members of the press.
What will be done?
Yes, sir. What will be done with Oswald?
Well, he has been charged. He will be transferred to the county jail and await grand jury action on it.
Chief, when will he be transferred to the county jail?
That I don't know. As soon as we get through talking to him, probably maybe sometime
Has
today.
he made any admission this morning in your further questioning of him about the killing of President Kennedy?
I have not talked to him, and I don't think anyone else has.
What are you waiting for now, Chief, in terms of further interrogation?
Well, we just want to talk to him some more.
When will you do that?
I imagine in a few minutes.
This will be before his transfer to the county jail.
Yes.
You expect that he will be brought down this corridor, Chief?
Yes.
Chief,
Is there still any word how he got from downtown out to the Oak Cliff section?
Not that I know of.
Just so far, what evidence has been uncovered, Chief? In addition to the weapon, etc.
I wouldn't want to elaborate on all the evidence that has been uncovered.
And what about his background?
Well, he has a background, of course, is generally known now. He defected to Russia in 1959 and married a Russian girl, and then last August, I understand, he went to the American consulate and asked to be brought back to the United States.
How would you describe his mood during the questioning?
Very arrogant. Has been all along.
What does he say, Chief?
He just denies everything.
Does he say anything else?
Not too much.
Has
I
he-
don't know. I haven't personally been interrogating him.
Has he admitted that he was in the building at the time the
Yes.
shots were fired?
Well, we know he couldn't deny that. We have witnesses.
But he denied, didn't he? How long has
I
he
think
been
he
in
denies
Dallas?
everything.
Chief Curry, how long has he been in Dallas, to your knowledge?
I think approximately 2 months.
And he is an employee of a bookbinding firm which operated...
I understand it's a Texas book depository.
Is there any doubt in your mind, Chief, that Oswald is the man who killed the
I
president?
think this is the man that killed the president. Yes.
Now, you're going to bring him down here for further interrogation in a few minutes. What do you
This was Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry. This corridor is packed with some 50 reporters and photographers. We expect in a very few moments that Oswald, the 24-year-old ex-Marine accused of killing President Kennedy, will be brought through this door just behind the chief, down this corridor into the homicide bureau, then taken on downstairs to the lower floor to the jail.
Chief, could you tell us what you might have found in his rooming house in the way of literature or any papers connecting him
We
with
found a great amount of communist literature, communist books. I couldn't tell you just what all it was, but it was a large box, probably a box that probably 2 by 2.
2 feet by 2 feet?
Yes, or 2 by 3 feet, and probably a 1.5 feet tall. I'd say it's 2/3 full of different types of books and materials.
Chief, we understand you have the results of the paraffin test which were made to determine whether Oswald had fired a weapon. Can you tell us what those tests show?
I understand that it was positive.
What does that mean?
It only means that he fired a gun.
Chief,
this doesn't...
was there powder burns or powder marks on his cheek? Or
I don't know that. I don't know
What
that.
do you know about on his hand?
Yeah.
That he fired a gun,
A
Chief,
gun.
not the rifle or the pistol.
That's right.
We just say a gun.
Chief, would you give us some details as to what form the literature was in and what kind of literature it was specifically? Where was it put out? What did it say?
I haven't examined all of it. I just understand it was communist literature.
It's English.
In English?
Yes, I think it was in English.
Chief, is there any plan for a reenactment of the crime, to take him to the scene or to do anything in that respect?
Is there any evidence that anyone else may have been linked with Oswald to this shooting?
At this time, we don't believe so. We are talking to a man that works in the same building that we have in our subversive files, and we are talking to him, but he denies any knowledge of it.
How old is this man, Chief?
I don't know.
Has he been associated with Oswald in the past?
We don't know that. We know that he works at the same place.
How long has he worked there?
I don't know how long the other man has worked.
What type
Still
of
don't know how
establishment?
Oswald got to the other side of town. Is there
No.
anything that can come up of that? Did he get over by a bus, by a car? He couldn't have
I
walked.
don't know. We have heard that he was picked up by a Negro in a car.
That is not confirmed.
No, it's not confirmed as far as I know.
Are you looking for the Negro?
We would like to know about him. If it is so, we would certainly like to find him.
Chief Curry, could you detail for us what led you to Oswald?
Not exactly, except in the building, when we went to the building, he was observed in the building at the time, but the manager told us that he worked there. And the officers passed him on up then because the manager said he is an employee.
Is that before the shooting or after?
After the shooting.
After the
Do you think the smudged fingerprints that have been found on the rifle which killed the president will be able to establish the identity of the killer?
We hope so, but I couldn't say positive at this time that they will be.
Would that be enough to convict him?
I don't know whether it would be enough to convict him or not. If we can put his prints on the rifle, it certainly would connect him with the rifle. And if we can establish that this is the rifle that killed the president.
How many shots had been fired from the rifle?
3.
Have you been able to trace the rifle? Do you know where it was
we're
purchased?
attempting to do that at this
Is there
time.
any connection yet between this and the firing at Major General Walker?
I do not know.
What was the subversive evidence on the other man that works in the building that you have in your subversive file?
Just that he attended meetings and was associated with groups that were left-wing groups.
Fair play for Cuba groups?
I don't know whether that was
You
one of
haven't
them.
found a car, I guess. Right?
No.
He doesn't have any car as far as you know.
No, as far as we know.
Did you say, Chief, that a policeman had seen him in the building?
Yes.
After the shot was
Yes.
fired? Why didn't he arrest him then?
Because the manager of the place told us that he was an employee. He said, he's all right, he's an employee.
Did he look suspicious to the policeman at this point?
I imagine the policeman was checking everyone he saw as he went into the building.
Well, then after this happened, what was done in terms of getting the trail back to Oswald?
The next thing we knew is when he turned up as a suspect in the murder of the police officer. And then the connection was made between the two.
Chief, did anyone see him shoot the police officer?
Yes.
Who was that?
I don't know the names,
male or
but there's...
female?
I think there were 3 witnesses, I
Three witnesses
understand.
saw him shoot the officer.
Has he made any admissions at all about
No.
the shooting of the police officer?
No, he
Nothing?
denies everything.
Why do you think the police officer went to him in the street? What was the reason?
I think he suspected him because of a description that has been put out on the radio.
On the police radio.
Where did they
Chief,
get that?
has anyone come forward saying they had seen a rifle after hearing the first shot, possibly looking toward the window? Has anyone
I
seen
read in the
gun?
paper where someone said it, but we don't have...
You don't have
I
that
don't have
person,
it,
and the
unless...
police department would like anybody to
Yes.
come forward who
Yes.
did see it.
Yes,
In other words, you're still looking for public help in this case.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Chief Curry, when you first knew of the Dallas policeman dead, what then led you to the theater? What information did you have from there?
I understand that someone called, I think the ticket taker from the theater called about the suspicious action of this person.
Could you describe briefly what happened inside the theater?
Well, they were searching the theater, and as the officer approached this man, he jumped up and said, "This is it," and drew a gun, attempted to draw a gun. They grappled with him, were able to twist the gun away from him, and he was resisting violently, and several officers were subdued him. I had two officers that had to have treatment for injuries, wrestling around over the seats in the theater, and another officer was scratched up but didn't have to have treatment.
Was there any subversive background? Was there any...
I'm sorry, there's too many talking. I can't understand.
This man's apparent subversive background, was there any surveillance? Were police aware of his presence in Dallas?
We in the police department here did not know he was in Dallas. I understand the FBI did know that he was in Dallas.
Chief, do you...
Normally,
Chief,
sort of practice for the FBI to inform the police, municipal
Yes.
police department.
Chief, do you have...
We did not have
But
the
you were
knowledge.
not informed.
We had not been informed of this man.
Chief, do you have any concern for the safety of your prisoner in view of the high feeling among the people of Dallas over the assassination of the president?
No, but necessary precautions will be taken, of course, but I'm not, I don't think that the people try to take the prisoner away from us.
Do you regard the county jail as a more secure place to house the prisoner? Is that why you're transferring him from the city jail?
It's customary after a man is filed on that he be transferred. We only keep him in our jail until he is filed on. After he's been filed on, well, then he's the sheriff's responsibility.
Will there be extra police at the county jail to assure
I don't
his...
know.
When
Sheriff
will he
Decker.
be transferred, Chief?
I do not know.
Where is the county jail?
At the end, about a block from where the president was killed.
Chief Curry, when will the formal grand jury action be taken to your estimation?
Mr. Wade told me last night, or told the press last night, probably the middle of next week.
Chief, can you tell us in summary what directly links Oswald to the killing of the president?
Well, the fact that he was on the floor where the shots were fired from immediately before the shots were fired, the fact that he was seen carrying a package to the building, the fact that...
when were you carrying that package? The same day?
Yesterday morning.
You figure that was a disassembled rifle?
I don't think it was disassembled. It was, the package was large enough for the rifle to be intact.
The box, or was it wrapped up?
Wrapped in paper.
And you have the witness who places him there after the time of the shooting.
My police officer can place him there after the time of the shooting.
When do you expect the report?
The officer who wanted to stop him and then was told by the manager that he worked.
Yes.
Chief, when have you heard from the Civil Liberties Union? Have they sent a...
They were up here last night.
Will they probably have a lawyer?
I don't know. They haven't sent one up here, but they wanted to know if he'd been warned of his rights and so forth, and we told him that he had.
But no lawyer has seen Oswald
No
yet.
lawyer has seen.
Has Oswald made any request for a lawyer?
He has, but he didn't say who he wanted or anything, so we couldn't just go out and start calling lawyers for him. That's not our responsibility.
From ACLU today, then?
I don't know.
Heck, as of now, it would be up to Oswald to hire his own lawyer if he wants one.
His mother, I understand, at this time has said that she would get him an attorney this morning.
Has he been arraigned yet for murdering the president?
He was arraigned last night about 1:30.
Chief Curry,
Yes.
Where does his mother live, Chief Curry?
I don't know.
Is she from Dallas?
No, I think she's from Fort Worth.
You have said, of course, Chief, that Oswald hasn't made any admissions. Is he responding to questions? Is he refusing to answer questions at this stage?
He doesn't answer questions except to say that's ridiculous, that's silly, that's and deny any knowledge of everything.
Did he say he was anywhere else at the time this was happening?
I don't know.
Does he seem confident of himself?
He says he was at the building, but he says he was there because he worked there.
Chief Curry, thank you very much.
Does he seem mentally right, Chief?
Yes, he's mentally right.
You don't think the man is off his rocker?
No, sir, I don't. No, sir, I don't think so.
Chief,
thank you, Chief Curry. We've just been talking here at Dallas Police Headquarters with the Chief of Police, Jesse Curry. In just a few moments, we expect Oswald will be brought through this door from his jail cell 1 floor above, taken through the Homicide Bureau, down to a police conference room on the lower level for further questioning. As of now, he has admitted nothing, denied all association, any guilt, anything to do with the assassination of President Kennedy. This is Bob Clark, ABC, at Dallas Police Headquarters.
Clear the hall, please.
Whenever you get a pack of newsmen together with police, there always is the possibility for conflict as everyone tries to do his job. And with that in mind, Dallas police and reporters tried to set up some ground rules concerning Lee Harvey Oswald.
Gentlemen, whenever this door is open, they come through here. We don't want any of you questioning this boy. We don't want any of you pushing. We want to cooperate with you. We want to help you every way in the world that we can, but we're going to have room to work.
Do you mind if we shout a question at him without stopping him?
No question at him, no way.
All right.
The more you upset him, the more difficult it is for us to talk to him.
We want to do whatever you want us to do. So if you say no questions.
If you go beyond the door.
Then.
Back up as far as you can against that wall, and I want you to stay there.
Can we call that the second part of the interrogation?
No. Don't want you calling out nothing.
Let's make it clear we have all agreed with the chief that we will not ask Oswald any questions.
We want to cooperate with you, gentlemen, every way in the world that we can, but if we have to, we may have to ask you to get back beyond this door and stay there.
Sir, in that event, could the cameraman be in front if they're not going to be able to
I don't have anything to do with the placing of your newsmen or your cameras.
we'll cooperate, but we can't.
want any questions asked.
Let us be in the bothering.
We'll be locked up back there. We just can't take that chance, but we'll duck down.
And it wasn't long before reporters would have the chance to put that agreement into practice.
The door has just opened. Here is Lee Oswald, the ex-Marine accused of killing President Kennedy. Oswald's face is rather badly bruised. Police explained yesterday that there was a sharp scuffle when he was arrested in a Dallas theater. There were no questions put to Oswald by reporters. We agreed at the request of the chief of police that we would make no effort to question him here this morning. Oswald has been taken into the Homicide Bureau, where he will be questioned further about details of the two killings here yesterday, that of President Kennedy and a Dallas policeman. As of now, Oswald has admitted nothing. The chief of police told us a few minutes ago in an interview here that he responds to questions. He hasn't refused to answer questions, but he gives such replies as ridiculous or that's insane or I had nothing to do with it.
In other words, something around 2 o'clock.
Here again is Chief of Police Jesse Curry of the Dallas Police Department.
We haven't planned any. We might later on if it looks like we have anything that would be of interest to
Well,
us.
even if you don't, after you get through interrogating, is there a possibility of a general conference for all the newsmen this afternoon?
We hadn't thought about it. I'll see about it later.
How long do you expect Oswald will be questioned at this time,
I
Chief?
don't have the least idea.
Can you tell us who is conducting the questioning this morning?
J.W. Fritz, Captain.
He is the head of the Homicide Bureau.
Also, there's an FBI man in there. There's also a Secret Service man in there.
Okay. How many police officers are participating in the questioning?
That's the three that are there.
Just those three?
Captain Fritz of our department, an FBI agent, and a Secret Service agent.
How did he get those?
Thank you very much, Chief Curry.
When he was fighting the officers in the theater yesterday,
I see.
he was attempting to shoot one of the officers in the theater and did snap the pistol, and they had to wrestle him down. I had 3 officers injured during the arrest of this man.
Chief, has Oswald been interrogated since last night?
No.
This one didn't.
Thank you again, Chief. Chief Jesse Curry of the Dallas Police Department. Oswald at this moment is down the hall about 20 feet from where we stand. He is in the office of the Homicide Bureau where he is being questioned by 3 police officers. Captain Fritz, of the head of the Homicide Bureau of the Dallas Police Department, an FBI man and a Secret Service agent. We're going.
Counsel for him this morning.
Thank you very much. And is she still in Dallas?
I don't know that she's in Dallas, but she talked to Captain Fritz this morning, and he told her to get counsel. It's perfectly all right with us for him to see counsel and have counsel.
Did I hear you say before that these paraffin tests were positive?
They were positive, I understand.
And would this be called sufficient evidence?
It only shows that he fired a gun. It doesn't. You couldn't determine whether that was the pistol that he fired or whether it was the rifle.
Thank you very much. Later in the day, Oswald is taken back up to his cell after a morning round of questioning.
He was still denying everything, saying he had nothing to do with killing the president. This room is packed with some 30 or 40 newsmen at this stage. Oswald presumably has been taken back upstairs to the 4th floor of police headquarters, where the Dallas City Jail is located. He will be transferred later, apparently sometime later today, to the county jail, a routine procedure for prisoners who have been arraigned. As of this moment, of course, Oswald is charged with the murder of President Kennedy. That charge came early today. It has been denied by Oswald.
Who did he ask for?
The chief of police told us at the time that Oswald was taken in for this morning's questioning session that he had not asked for a lawyer, but that his mother had indicated she would get a lawyer for him. We also know that Oswald has refused to take a lie detector test. At previous questioning sessions yesterday, he did not refuse to answer the questions put to him by police. He responded to questions but gave such answers, or so the police chief told us, as "that's ridiculous," "that's silly," or "I had nothing to do with it." We are waiting here in the corridor at Dallas Police Headquarters now. Lee Oswald, the 24-year-old dishonorably discharged Marine who was accused of killing President Kennedy, has just been taken through this corridor, presumably back up to his cell in the city jail 1 floor above us. Oswald was questioned for the past hour in the Homicide Bureau here at police headquarters by 3 men. Captain Will Fritz, the head of the Homicide Bureau, 1 Secret Service agent, and 1 FBI man. We have not, as of yet, been able to talk with any of the police officers who questioned Oswald.
Besides Oswald, Dallas police are also interested in one of his co-workers. Information on this man comes from Glenn King, who would one day be police chief himself.
Captain Glenn King of the Dallas Police Force.
What information you gave a little while ago about the search for additional suspects?
Well, early this morning, members of this department and the representatives from our district attorney's office, with a search warrant in their possession, went to an address here in Dallas to talk to a person who was associated with the Oswald at the place where Oswald works. They were met at the door by this person, and he asked them to come in, and they went into the house on his invitation. The search warrant was not executed because he did invite them in. They asked permission from him to look around the house, and this permission was given. They were not able to find anything there that would indicate his association with this. Nothing in the house at that time to indicate it. So they asked him to come down to the police station this morning at 11 o'clock for interrogation, and he agreed to do so. He did come down this morning at 11. He is, at the present time, being interrogated. We do not have anything definite on it, whether there will be any association or not. Of course, now we don't know.
Do you regard this man as a suspect in this case at this moment?
Oh, we regard him as right now as a person to interrogate. Certainly there's not an adequate amount of information on it to indicate that he is a suspect. We do have this. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has asked us, and we join in with them in requesting that any person who was in the vicinity of the assassination yesterday, who was taking pictures, bring these pictures to the police department here. Anyone who has any information concerning this certainly should contact the police department immediately. But particularly anyone, and it's logical, I think, that since the president's motorcade was going through, someone in that area might have had cameras and might have been taking pictures. We don't know of anyone, but if there are such persons, we certainly would urge that they bring their film to the police department.
Do you know, Captain, whether Oswald continued to maintain his innocence during the hour he was questioned here this morning?
I do not know. I haven't talked to them about his questioning this morning.
Going to this home and bringing this man, asking him to come in for interrogation, does this indicate that Oswald has said something that will lead you to believe other people were associated with him in this alleged crime?
Not necessarily, no.
Is the business associated with also?
Can you identify this man?
This I do not know. This I do not know. I don't want to identify him, no, because there's not an adequate amount of evidence of any involvement on his part to warrant an identification of him.
Is this the person referred to earlier as having a subversive type record who lived or who worked at the same place?
Yes.
Is he a colored man, sir?
No. What is the present plan now as far as the prime suspect is concerned? Actually, we will continue the investigation, attempting to find answers to all of the questions on it. The trend, the investigation will take, or the route it will follow, of course, will be dictated by what happens. But
well, what do you do with Mr. Oswald as of right now? What is in?
I understand that he's been returned to the jail, to his jail cell.
Do you know when he will be transferred to the county jail?
No, sir, we do not.
Will he be interrogated here again this afternoon?
We do not know.
Could we ask you, sir, what do you know about the report that the FBI knew that Oswald was in town?
I know nothing about this.
The person that you know of, is he in any way, pictures show any indication that he knew that the thing was
Not to our knowledge, no. Not to our knowledge. I'm not sure what pictures you're talking about. Not to our knowledge, he did not, no.
Captain King, are you in the...
This is Captain Glenn King of the Dallas Police Force.
The person who is listed on the Dallas Police Department's subversive list?
I don't think that it's gone quite to this extent yet. I don't think we are at the present time interrogating all persons who might be on a subversive list.
Did you take...
if there's any indication of a necessity for it, certainly we're not going to pass up any.
Did you give special consideration to the persons on your subversive list before the president came to town, to know where they were, what they were doing?
Yes.
Then if the FBI had known about him ahead of time and had informed your office, you would have checked up on Oswald as well?
I'd rather not speculate on what might have happened if something else had happened. I don't know.
Well, we've been given information earlier today that the FBI did know he was here and had interviewed him within the last couple of 3 weeks.
On this, I have no information.
Captain King, is there any question from the police questioning of Oswald so far that he is mentally competent to stand trial?
He seems to be, certainly.
Would you regard him as a deranged individual in any way?
He doesn't seem to be, no.
What about a lie detector test?
I do not know.
Thank you, Captain.
Sure.
Captain King, thank you very much.
Captain Glenn King of the Dallas Police Force. This is Bob Clark, ABC, at Dallas Police Headquarters.
The police station now, Dallas City Hall, waiting for further developments on the Oswald case. From all the commotion going on, it looks as if something may start to be happening there again. Perhaps a movement of the charged man. We have learned that perhaps his mother, his wife, lawyer may have moved in. This is at Dallas City Hall in the... Now the press rushing up to a door. Trying to get a shot inside, obviously. Police very thick around there.
The activity here in this corridor at Dallas Police Headquarters at the moment is pertaining to more witnesses that have been taken into the room where Oswald himself was questioned about an hour ago. We don't know who those witnesses are. We do know that one man named Joe Rodriguez Molina was questioned by police earlier this morning, who went to his home with a search warrant. He has been at police headquarters. We're uncertain here whether he is still in the room undergoing questioning. Molina has been identified by Dallas police as a man, he is listed in Dallas police records as a man who is known to have associated with subversives. He worked in the same building where Oswald worked, in the building where the shots were fired that killed President Kennedy. Police emphasize that he is not regarded as a suspect. They are simply checking him for any possible connection with the case because of his record as one who had associated with subversives. As Oswald himself came out of the room where he had been questioned about an hour ago, he leaned into ABC microphones and said he would like to contact a Mr. Apt of New York City to serve as his attorney. We are not certain who Mr. Apt is. We do know, however, that a Mr. John Apt
was the official lawyer for the Communist Party and for communist officials appearing before congressional committees in the 1950s. Again, I emphasize we are not certain whether this is the man Oswald wants to contact to serve as his attorney. Oswald himself, as far as we know, is at this moment in his jail cell in the Dallas City Jail, one floor above us. He will be transferred later, we expect sometime later today, to the Dallas County Jail. This is Bob Clark, ABC, at Dallas Police Headquarters.
Bob Clark reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters on the latest developments there. They have been questioning more witnesses in the case, not necessarily suspects, as Bob pointed out, but witnesses. Now we're going to bring you a special report on the condition of Governor John Connally. Here is the report from Mr. Julian Reed, Governor Connally's press secretary.
Governor Connally spent a quite satisfactory night. Doctors report that he slept well. His pulse, respiration, and temperature are stable. Doctors are pleased with his progress. He is generally improved. He visited briefly this morning with Mrs. Connally, who spent last night in a room just adjacent to him in the recovery room. He is in good spirits this morning. He asked this morning about the president. He was told that the president had died. He indicated that that's what he had feared. He asked about Mrs. Kennedy. He was told by Mrs. Connally that she had talked to relatives in Washington of Mrs. Kennedy and had expressed her concern and sympathy. The governor's main problem right now is the discomfort of a right arm which is suspended over his bed. The right arm has a cast from above the elbow down past the wrist. He also has indicated quite a bit of impatience at the prospect of being in the hospital 10 days or more.
Meanwhile, back at police headquarters, Chief Curry is concerned about the image of cooperation between the Dallas police and federal law enforcement agencies.
There has been some information that has gone out. I want to correct anything that might have been misinterpreted or misunderstood, and that is regarding information that the FBI might have had about this man. I do not know if and when the FBI has interviewed this man. The FBI is under no obligation to come to us with any information concerning anyone. They have cooperated with us in the past 100%. Anytime there's any information that they feel that might be helpful to us, they have always come to it with us. Last night someone told me, I don't even know who it was, that the FBI did know this man was in the city and had interviewed him. I wish to say this, of my knowledge, I do not know this to be a fact, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that I am accusing the FBI of not cooperating or of withholding information, because they are under no obligation to us, but have always cooperated with us 100%.
Chief, just to make this...
I do not know if and when they have ever interviewed this man.
Just to make this clear, Chief, you were talking about Oswald and the reports that the FBI had information about him before the assassination.
That's correct. And I wish to make this statement that I do not know, of my knowledge, whether they have anything on this man or not, or whether or not they have ever interviewed him. I do say this, that they have always in the past, if they had information that they thought would be helpful to us, they have come to us with it.
Had you been given an erroneous or unreliable report that they had some information about him?
I don't know. Someone last night told me this, and I don't even know who told me, but they just said that last night that the FBI did know this man was here. I wish to make this statement that I do not know whether they knew it or not, and I certainly am not saying that the FBI knew something that we should have known, didn't tell us. They're under no obligation to us, but they have always cooperated with us.
Chief, can you tell us when Oswald was questioned this morning if he continued to deny his guilt, to deny that he had anything to do with the killing?
That I don't know, because I haven't contacted the captain since he's been with him.
Chief, now that you've made the record clear as to the matter of FBI cooperation, operation. Can you tell us where you now stand in the matter of prosecuting this man?
Well, so far as I know, we're right where we were last night, because I don't know what has developed in the questioning this morning. We are still trying to establish verification on the gun, where it came from, and we're still, yes, the rifle. We're still interviewing many witnesses that were in the area. We have appealed to any citizen who might have been in the area, that might have taken any pictures, that might have seen anything, to come to us. And actually, we probably will have, well, there's no way of estimating how many statements we will take. We have several people taking statements now.
Chief, was the subject of a polygraph, a lie detector test, broached with Oswald, and if so, what was the outcome?
I understood that it was offered to him and he refused it.
Do you know when this occurred, sir?
Yesterday, I understand.
Did he give any reason for refusing to take the lie detector test?
I understand he said he didn't have to take it and he didn't want to.
There was something about a pop bottle being found up there on that floor up there. Was there one, and were there prints on it?
I don't know. That's the first I'd heard of that.
Chief Curry, what are your plans now in dealing with Oswald himself? Will he be interrogated here further, or will he be transferred to the county jail to await the presentment to the grand jury?
He will go to the county jail. I don't know just when, but I'm thinking probably sometime today. I couldn't be sure. It's more convenient here to have him near us where we can talk to him when we need to, but we probably will transfer him soon.
You may then question him again before he is transferred to the county jail.
It's possible, yes.
Has an attorney turned up for him yet?
I have not heard of one. I understood that his mother was obtaining an attorney for him this morning, but I haven't.
Mother here now, Chief?
I don't know.
He told us as he left this morning that he would like to contact a Mr. Apt of New York City to serve as his attorney. Do you know who he was referring to?
No, I don't. No.
Any information question on the rifle and the revolver?
No, sir, we haven't had a return yet.
As far as you know so far, is there any evidence that there's anybody else involved in this?
No, sir, not that we know of.
Was Mr. Molina being arrested or just picked up?
He came in voluntarily this morning. They went to his home last night and he invited them in. They had a search warrant, but it wasn't necessary to use it because he invited them in and told them they could look around, the officers, and then after they had talked to him last night, they left him at home, and he agreed to come in this morning, and I think he's somewhere in the building now.
Chief, as far as you are concerned, does the investigation at this hour point toward the possibility of accomplices?
We don't believe so at this time.
You have no information linking Mr. Molina with the case?
No. The only reason that we wanted to talk to him was the fact that we do have him listed in some of our subversive files, and he did work in the building. And
you don't know whether he knows Oswald?
I don't know whether he admitted knowing him or not.
Is there any indication from the investigation to date that would indicate motive on the part of Mr. Oswald?
So far as I know, there's no indication of it.
Are you satisfied that you've got him traced directly from the scene of the shooting to his arrest?
Yes.
Can you account for all
now,
the time?
wait. You mean from the scene of the presidential assassination?
Yeah, to the time.
No, we haven't got all of it
How much
traced.
time is involved in there? How big a lapse of time?
Roughly 45 minutes, I believe.
You still don't know. He doesn't have a car. It's too far to walk.
I understand that he does not have a car.
Do you have anything other than circumstantial evidence right now?
Well, we have some physical evidence.
Can you tell us anything about
No.
that physical evidence?
No, sir, I wouldn't. I don't think I should discuss that.
Now, do you know whether any of the witnesses who have appeared here this morning have given any information that would contribute to the case?
I don't know that.
Do you feel that this case is proceeding as efficiently as you would like it to proceed, or are some doubts beginning to grow as to whether this, in fact, is the man?
No doubts are beginning to grow, but it's a very difficult investigation for the very fact that you see here. It's surrounded by literally hundreds of news people, and There's so many witnesses or people that we need to talk to that it's a very difficult investigation. But I'm not beginning to have any doubts.
Are the resources being applied to this investigation adequate, in your opinion?
Yes.
Would you describe them for us?
We're just using all means possible in the scientific investigations. Of course, these are interrogation and scientific, other scientific aids outside of physical evidence and any other means that we have.
But in addition to the Dallas Police Department, who else is directly aiding in the investigation?
There's been an FBI, or members of the FBI have been present all throughout this, members of the Secret Service and members of the state police, that is, Rangers have been here. Sheriff Decker has helped us in the interviewing of many of the witnesses. So we have, but in all of the interrogations, there have been an FBI agent present and also a Secret Service agent present.
Who is in direct command of this investigation?
This investigation is being conducted by Captain J.W. Fritz, actually. Deputy Chief Stevenson's in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division, Captain Fritz in charge of the Homicide Bureau.
Is he coordinating the other agencies which are involved in the investigation?
Yes.
Will we be able to talk to Captain Fritz sometime this afternoon today?
I don't know. That'd be up to him.
Chief, is there any, you say you have something in the way of physical evidence? Do these include anything else besides witnesses?
Yes, but I can't discuss these things with
They
you.
do include other things besides
Yes, yes.
Would these be in the form of writings or indications that he had
I couldn't
planned
go
this?
into it any further.
You
I
feel-
can say this, no, it doesn't. We don't have anything that indicated that he had planned this, any writing or anything, no.
Have you located the source of the rifle?
No, we're still working on that.
Have you had a report as to whether this was the rifle that killed President Kennedy?
We don't have a report.
Do you expect that any time soon, sir?
We expect it soon, but I don't know just when.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks very much.
This was Chief Jesse Curry of the Dallas Police Department. This is Bob Clark, ABC at Dallas Police Headquarters.
It is just before midday, Saturday, November 23rd, 1963. It has been almost 24 hours since President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. At Dallas Police Headquarters, Lee Harvey Oswald, the prime suspect, is being held. And for the first time, reporters meet Oswald's mother and Russian-born wife as they come to see him in his cell.
Who are they? You know? Who are they? This might be the wife. Is this the wife and mother?
Who are they? Who are they?
Wife and mother.
And now the wife and mother of Lee Oswald walk out. The mother, as you can see, is a gray-haired woman, her hair neatly tied in a bun. The wife is petite and rather attractive. They've been under questioning now for a couple of hours. The wife and mother wait now with one of the police officials by the elevator. His mother said of Lee Oswald earlier today that he was a good son and very considerate of her feelings. She called attention to the fact that he had once defected to Russia and said that when he finally came back to the United States, he avoided calling at her home. Avoided this because he was afraid she might be subject to persecution by neighbors if they found out what he had done. His wife, they're both about the same size, both rather petite, speaks no English, speaks only Russian.
Paul, if I may interrupt for a moment, the mother just said we're on the way to see the boy.
All right, thank you,
Oswald,
Bob.
of course, is in his jail cell just one floor above.
One floor above the third floor of the city courthouse in Dallas. The son was only questioned for 1 hour today. The next step that's awaited is his transfer to the county courthouse. Now, of course, this presupposes that no new evidence has been developed in the last hours, in which case he may be questioned again. Here, Bob.
Mrs. Oswald, have you contacted a lawyer?
Are you going to see Lee now?
And Mrs. Oswald, the suspect's mother, was just asked if she had contacted a lawyer. She shook her head negatively.
Lee Oswald.
Again, after being subjected to more than an hour's questioning, the mother of Lee Oswald and his Russian-born wife are being escorted up to the fourth floor of the city courthouse here in Dallas to see the suspect. Now, this, of course, is only speculation, but the fact that these two closest relatives are being brought to confront the suspect might indicate that something is breaking in the case. And then again, it could be nothing more than a simple courtesy to allow these closest members of the family to see the suspect.
Not a word. She just said she had not had a lawyer.
And once again, in the reconstruction of the character of Lee Oswald, his mother had pointed out that he was a dutiful son who tried to protect her from persecution, as she put it, by her neighbors after he returned from Soviet Russia, where he had defected for a number of years. She said that the son never came to visit her at home because he was afraid that the neighbors would see him there and torment the mother. This is Paul Good, ABC at City Courthouse.
Something's happening. Something's happening, Brad. Here's the wife and mother again.
And a short time later, the two women reemerge and make their way through the mob of reporters once more. The man who is in charge of Oswald's interrogation is Homicide Captain Will Fritz, who shares some information with reporters as he, too, tries to move down the crowded hallway.
Not all three shootings.
Does he admit disliking any kind of
He talks a little bit this morning.
I see.
Well, I asked him about his likes and dislikes for the president, and he said he thought everyone was entitled to like or dislike anyone they wanted to, but he wouldn't look at everything.
What's the latest word on Rodriguez Molina?
I haven't talked to him. Someone else is talking to him.
He's still being held?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
Where does his wife live? Did you ask him about his feelings toward the governor by any chance? If he had any feelings one way or the other on that?
I didn't ask him about that.
I see. You say he was more cooperative today, though, a little more informative. Where does he admit anything? He didn't admit anything.
Where does his wife live, Captain?
Where does she live? In Irving.
Do you have an address?
I have it, but I don't have it here with me.
Captain, do you expect a confession?
No, sir. Not right now.
Have you got this fellow tied to the murder weapon, the rifle?
Well, we of course would like to have him tied to it better than we have, but we're still in pretty good shape.
Well, how well do you have him tied to it?
Well, I can't go into that because that'll be a part of the evidence, and the district attorney should pass on that.
Were there any good fingerprints on the gun?
I wouldn't want to talk about the prints. And
is it hoped that the
get prints, of course?
Captain, you established how he left, what route he took after he left the building.
Yes.
How did he actually get back in Oak Cliff?
He left the building and started toward his home and by bus. By bus. Caught a bus to go home. He rode the bus a part of the way, then changed a cab and rode the cab part of the way, and then walked on to his home.
Why did he say he did this, Captain?
Said the bus traveling too slow.
Which home is this now?
Captain?
We can't hear you.
Captain?
Yes, sir?
Captain, is it hoped that his wife and his mother may persuade him to confess? Is that why they're talking to him?
No, sir. We just let them visit because they wanted to, because they're relatives, and they might want to talk to him, and we
Did he say
about
why
his
he
attorney.
left work, Captain?
Sir?
Did he say why he left his place of work?
No, sir. Makes no sense.
Did he say why he went to the movie?
He did give one kind of an excuse about leaving work. He said he didn't believe that anyone was going to work that afternoon anyway, so he just left.
You call him a cooperative witness?
Where is he now?
He's in jail.
Did he get back to his room over on Beckley and then leave it and then encounter the officer?
That's right. He changed clothes. He went to his room, changed his clothing, then started to the picture show and encountered the officer on the way to the picture show.
Bus transfer in his pockets?
Yes, he did.
And he got it from the bus driver?
Yes, sir.
Captain, do you feel any closer to a
You did?
Sir? You talked to the taxi driver who
I didn't, but some of the officer did.
Well, it's known. I mean, you know where he is.
Captain, do you feel any closer to a confession today than you did last night?
Captain, didn't he also get a
I
lift?
can't tell about that. That'd be a guess, of course.
Didn't he also get a lift from somebody else besides a taxi? Aren't they looking for the driver or another car?
Maybe that was an untrue story. Was that an untrue?
Do we know where the gun came from, the rifle?
No, sir.
How far back have you been able to trace it, sir?
I wouldn't want to.
Was it bought in town, for instance?
I wouldn't want to talk
What
about
about the
it
bus
right now.
driver?
Thank you.
Did you talk to him? Do you know who he was? The bus driver?
Yes, sir. We know the bus driver. Yes, sir.
What does he say about Russia?
This interview is being conducted with Captain Will Fritz, chief of the Dallas Homicide Squad. Mr. Fritz enjoys a reputation, one of the finest interrogators, not only in the state of Texas, but in the Southwest. He's been working constantly on Lee Oswald, but as he himself says, he feels no closer to a confession now than he did before. This, of course, is nothing detrimental to the captain. It does say something about the determination of Lee Oswald.
Sir?
He said he was.
He's been more cooperative. What does he talk to you about? He hasn't admitted anything.
Whatever you...
I mean, has he given you any story at all about his movements or his feelings in this thing? He has, sir?
Did he make any phone call from his room after he got there before he changed clothes?
I don't believe he has a telephone there. Probably the landlady does.
Captain, could you do us one favor?
Where you going?
Right? Wrap up now? That was an interview with Captain Will Fritz, chief of homicide here in Dallas. As was pointed out, Captain Fritz has a great reputation as a very skillful, dedicated interrogator. Now, he's been working on Lee Oswald for a long, long time, and so far there are no cracks in Oswald's defense. There have been certain new facts brought out about Oswald's movements immediately after the assassination. But so far, Oswald remains determined to deny any guilt in the assassination of President Kennedy. And now back to WFAA Dallas.
Police here believe that they do have a very, very tight case against this young pro-communist sympathizer. Quoting police Captain Will Fritz, the case is cinched. There is no question in our minds that this man killed the president. With us here in the studios of WFAA TV in Dallas are two members of the Dallas Police Department, two brave men who took part in the apprehension yesterday of Lee Harvey Oswald. To refresh your memory, Oswald was actually captured several hours after the assassination of the president in a theater some distance from the assassination scene. He was found inside this theater and apprehended. On my right, Detective Paul Bentley, and on my left, Patrolman M.N. McDonald. I believe, Patrolman McDonald, you were involved first in going into the theater. Could you describe for us what happened?
Well, I walked into the rear exit after a person had pointed out a person had run into the theater in a suspicious way, and there was about 15 people inside the theater at the time, and there's one person was sitting back there alone near the rear of the theater, and as I approached him about 1 foot from him, he jumped out of his seat and held his hands up and says, "This is it." And he hit me in the face with his fist, blooding my nose, and I immediately grabbed him, and he went for his gun that was in his waist. And I went at the same time, and we were struggling in there, and I received a scratch on my cheek, evidently from the hammer of the gun as it came out of his belt. And as it was coming out, he snapped the trigger on the pistol, which misfired, luckily.
Was the pistol loaded?
Yes, fully loaded. It had 6 rounds in it.
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
Well, not this desperate, no, sir.
What was his mental state at the time of capture? Was he hysterical or screaming or?
He was cool and calm up until the time that he made that jump for me. And the whole time I watched him, as I approached him, he was calm. He didn't move, he didn't flinch.
Detective Bentley, could you tell us your part in the apprehension?
Yes, sir. I was out on the 10th Street address where Patrolman J.D. Tippett had been shot, and we received the information that the suspect had just entered the Texas Theater. Captain Talbert of the Radio Patrol and myself went to the Texas Theater, and Captain Talbert let me out to go in the front while he covered the rear of the theater. On entering the theater, I went to the balcony where I was told that this suspect had gone to. Assisting me up there were several uniformed officers, and I advised them to search the people in the balcony, and I proceeded to go down to the lower floor. Just as I got to the back of the theater, I noticed the scuffling that was going on between Patrolman McDonald and this suspect. I immediately, in some way, I don't know how, I sprained my ankle in getting over the seats to aid Patrolman McDonald, but in aiding him, I twisted my ankle, causing some severe strain to my ankle. At the time I got a hold of the suspect, Patrolman McDonald was scuffling with him, trying to get the gun away from him, and by the time we got him pretty well subdued, we had the assistance of 4 or 5 other patrolmen and other officers.
I believe the crutches behind me are evidence of the injuries you suffered in yesterday's capture. What would be your description of the suspect at the time?
At the time I encountered the suspect, of course, he was resisting and fighting and scuffling with Patrolman McDonald, and of course scuffling with the rest of us. He was subdued and handcuffed and was making several remarks as we removed him from the theater out to the squad waiting to transport him down to Homicide and Robbery Bureau. I accompanied the officers to Homicide and Robbery Bureau in the squad and talked with the suspect on the way to the City Hall. His comment was, "Why are you placing me in jail when all I have done is carried a pistol into a theater?" We explained to him that he was being placed in jail for suspicion of murder regarding the patrolman J.D. Tippett. He stated he had not shot anyone at that time and became very belligerent on the way to the City Hall. We advised him that he could do his talking a little bit later. He was then taken and turned over to Captain Fritz.
You made no mention to him of the possible charges of murdering the president at that time?
No, sir, I did not myself, because at the time of the arrest, I had no knowledge whatsoever that this might possibly be our suspect in regards to the assassination of the president.
Detective Bentley, I understand that you are one of the top polygraph experts for the city. As you undoubtedly know, the suspect has refused a lie detector examination, but certainly with your experience with criminals, would you care to make any estimation about how he might survive? Is he that cool, calm, and collected, or what would be the
My personal feeling at this time certainly would not be the proper time to give the suspect a polygraph examination after being continuously interrogated by our officers. I think that there's no doubt in my mind that the suspect would be a fit polygraph suspect or subject possibly in a day or two when he calms down a little bit. But he is rather upset at this time, and I feel like a polygraph examination in the future would be very good if he would submit to it.
Do you believe that he at that time was at all afraid that you were placing him under suspicion for the murder of the president?
He certainly didn't appear that way, not a bit, not in the least.
Was he unlike most of your confrontations of this nature, or would you say that he was pretty typical? I mean, was anything unique or different about him is what I'm after.
No, sir. I think, in my experience with this particular type person, I think he reacted about the same as the rest of them would, not admitting any particular thing that he had done and refusing to give us any additional information when questioned regarding the shooting of Officer J.D. Tippett. I asked for his name, and he refused to give me his name. I removed his wallet from his back pocket and obtained his identification. And I also asked him if he was still living at the Ellsbury address, and he says, well, you find out for yourself.
What kind of identification did he have?
The card that I got this information from was his Dallas Public Library card. He had other identifications such as driver's license, I believe, and credit cards and things like that.
Did he make at the time any radical statements that you might associate with extreme left political views?
No, sir, he did not. He made no radical statements whatsoever.
I believe now we are going to the Dallas City Jail, where the mother and wife of suspect Lee Harvey Oswald are entering the doorway into the elevator room, I believe. Isn't that right, Detective Bentley?
Yes, sir, that's right.
That will transfer them from the third floor, the homicide office doorway in the background, to the upstairs jail cell where Lee Harvey Oswald has been held now for almost 24 hours.
Right.
Of course, we are waiting for the transfer of suspect Oswald to the county jail, which is still expected sometime this afternoon. Patrolman McDonald, in your experiences with suspects and the capture of such individuals, did you find anything unique or strange or different about Lee Harvey Oswald?
Well, not anything you can put your finger on, but he acted just like anybody else would be carrying a pistol, because he reached for it immediately as soon as I grabbed a hold of him. And in my experiences with suspects of this nature, they're all pretty calm unless they have recently or within the few minutes had committed some sort of crime. But he had time enough between the time he had the suspected killing of the J.D. Tippit to control his nature, and he was quite calm and cool.
Did you realize at the time that you may be capturing the man who very possibly could be charged and perhaps convicted of assassinating the president?
Well, I had no link in that at all, because I didn't know. I was just looking for this suspect that we had a meager description of, that had shot and killed Officer J.D. Tippit. And I didn't have any association with the shooting of the president at all with this particular subject.
How do you feel now that Oswald has been formally charged with the assassination of the president?
Well, I feel relieved quite a bit, because the whole nation has recorded this shock, and I'm glad that we caught him here in Dallas instead of waiting around him up later on.
Dallas has every reason to be proud of its police department today. We've been talking with Detective Paul Bentley and Patrolman M.D. McDonald, two of the men who played a key role in the capture of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who Dallas police now say they believe is the man who murdered President John Kennedy. This is Roger Sharp reporting from the studios of WFAA-TV in Dallas.
It is early Saturday afternoon, November 23rd, 1963. At Dallas Police Headquarters, Lee Harvey Oswald is still being questioned by police, the Secret Service, and the FBI. In the early afternoon, Police Chief Jesse Curry comes out in the third-floor hallway. He tells reporters he has some important new information concerning the weapon found on the 6th floor of the Texas Schoolbook Depository building, the rifle police believe was used to assassinate President Kennedy.
This is a statement from Dallas Police Chief Curry.
The FBI has just informed us that they have the order letter for the rifle that we have sent to the laboratory. They have that order letter that they received from a mail order house in Chicago. This order letter has been to the laboratory in Washington, D.C., and compared with known handwriting of our suspect, Oswald, and the handwriting is the same on the order letter as Oswald's handwriting. The return address on this order letter was to the post office box in Dallas, Texas, of our suspect, Oswald, and it was returned under another name. But it has definitely been established by the FBI that the handwriting is the handwriting of Oswald.
Was this a recent purchase? A recent purchase?
This purchase was made on March the 20th.
This year?
This year.
And that's definitely the same gun.
Chief, what about ballistics test, Chief?
The ballistic test, we haven't had a final report, but it is, I understand, will be favorable.
Is this the development you referred to today as making the case ironclad, in your opinion?
This was not what I had reference to earlier.
Could you give us an indication what that is?
Were you referring to the photograph earlier? No.
Where did these photographs come from, Chief?
The photographs were found in out at Irving, where he had been staying and where his wife had been staying.
These are the photographs of the revolver and the rifle.
There is a photograph of him with a revolver on his hip and holding a rifle in his hand.
Does this rifle look like the one that you have that you think is a murder weapon, sir?
It does.
Does it have a telescopic sight?
It does.
How is he taking this information as it builds up?
I don't know.
Is he showing awareness?
I don't believe he knows all this as yet. I think the captain is talking to him about it at the present time.
Chief, a rather important point.
Has this gun been connected definitely with that is the order for the rifle, been connected with the rifle which you found?
It has.
Just a moment ago, he came out into the interrogation room bitterly complaining about being deprived of his citizenship rights because he can't take a shower. Do you have any comment on that?
I didn't know he had asked to take a shower. We have a shower up there where he could take a shower if he wants it.
Chief, back to the photograph, did he have in his hand a copy of The Worker, a communist publication with the headline, "Be Militant" on it?
It seems there's two papers there. One of them, you can see the word "Be Militant." On the other, you can see "The Worker."
Is this the Weekly Worker from New York?
I don't know.
What was the name under which you ordered the gun? Was that OHV or?
The name, the name on the return address was A. Heidel. A. Heidel.
Are you going to confront him with this evidence now?
H-I-D-E-L-L.
Was that the name in which the post office box was rented?
I don't know that.
Chief, will you
pretty certain this is the rifle that killed the president?
Yes.
Will you confront him with this evidence now, Chief?
That I don't know.
Are you on the way in to show him this evidence now?
I'm not.
Has he been shown it?
Captain Fritz is with him now. He will be shown this evidence by Captain Fritz.
Do you consider the case shut tight now, Chief?
We will continue to work on it and try to get every shred of evidence that's possible.
How many photos, Chief, are involved?
I do not know.
Can you give us something about the fact you found this morning, the new facts you mentioned this morning?
No, sir.
Chief, how was the rifle described on the order to the mail order house?
That I do not know.
What was the
Did you say you had the order?
I said the FBI had the order.
Oh, I see.
Did they get this through a tip? Do you know how it was developed, this evidence?
I don't know how the FBI got their information. We received some information ourselves.
As a tip?
Yes.
But that's definitely the same gun which had been sent to Washington.
Yes.
Can you tell us what the breakthrough was you referred to
now,
earlier?
let me say this. I can't say for sure on that.
What's that, Chief?
He asked if this was the gun that we sent to Washington, the gun that was ordered. I can't say definitely on that. I don't know.
The same type of gun?
Yes.
The same type of gun?
Yes. That I don't know.
But you say ballistics tests are encouraging so far.
I believe the gun was supposed to cost $12.78, I believe. I believe it was advertised in some magazine for that.
Chief, you say the ballistics tests so far are encouraging?
The name of the mail order house.
The ballistics tests are encouraging?
The ballistic tests are encouraging.
Do you have the advertisement out of the magazine
No,
which
I
advertises this?
No, I don't, Johnny.
Had Oswald ever used the alias Heidel before?
I do not know. That's all I have to tell you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Captain Will Fritz heads up the investigation of President Kennedy's murder. He is the man who has been questioning Oswald since his arrest.
I think we have enough to keep us busy all afternoon.
Captain, that means you won't be transferring them until later tonight or tomorrow?
Have to be later tonight or tomorrow.
Or tomorrow, possibly tomorrow.
But there's going to be...
I have it, but I don't have it with me.
There's going to be more questioning tonight, Chief?
Yes.
More questioning tonight.
Yes, sir.
Working with Captain Fritz is the man who will try the state's case against Lee Harvey Oswald in court, Dallas County District Attorney Henry Wade.
Well, since I've been this attorney, I've tried 24 death penalty cases, which we asked the death penalty.
And how many death verdicts did you get?
23.
You going to try this personally?
Yes, sir.
ask you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what was your decision on that, sir? Why did you make that decision?
This is a proper case for the death penalty.
Beg pardon?
This is a proper case for the death penalty. Is that what?
Why did you decide to try this personally yourself?
Well, I generally try the major cases, and I believe this will be classed as a major case.
And he is going to be, I would imagine, yes, it would.
Are you elected or appointed?
I'm elected every 4 years. I'm starting my 5th term. I'm in my first year of my 5th term, serving a 4-year term.
Mr. Wade, do you expect to call Mrs. Kennedy or Governor Connolly, if he's able, in this trial as witnesses?
We will not unless it's absolutely necessary, and at this point I don't think it'll be necessary.
How soon could we expect a trial?
I'd say around the middle of January.
Could I recap a few high points of the things you've said with you, Mr. Wade? First of all, has the investigation, in your opinion, advanced materially today?
I'm not familiar with all of the advancing. It's mostly routine today, interviewing witnesses at the scene, and I don't know everything that's been done, but I think it's progressing satisfactorily.
Now, the pace in the questioning of Oswald seems to have dropped off sharply in comparison to last night. Is there any particular reason for that?
None that I know of.
Now, you've talked to Oswald for about how long?
Practically none, personally.
But have you observed him for a number of hours?
I've seen him a time or two, but I didn't get the interrogation started before I got down here, and I left them with it.
Well, from what you've seen, how do you sum him up as a man, based on your experience with criminal types?
Oh, I think it's a man that planned this murder weeks or months ago and has laid his plans carefully and carried them out, and has planned at that time what he's going to tell the police that are questioning him at present.
Well, in these plans, do you have any inkling as to the why, the reason for it?
No, very little.
It's commonly supposed, because of his affection for Castro's Cuba and communism, that he was led to engineer this plot.
I can't say whether that was it. Apparently, on its face, that contributed quite a bit to it.
You characterize Oswald as superior in intelligence?
I'd say above average.
What about any other personality traits that you can detect in him? Because, as you know, anybody who would attempt something so heinous and complex as this must present an interesting personality to the world.
I'm sure it does, but I know very little about personality, psychology, and the like. I'm not an authority by any means on that.
Has he ever expressed any hatred or ill will toward President Kennedy, or for that matter, any regret over his death?
He has expressed no regret that I know of.
Any
I don't
ill
know
will?
about the other.
Now, his wife and his mother and his brother are talking to him, I believe, right now up on the 4th floor. Is there any hope that they might convince him to confess?
I don't know. I understand they want him to.
Have they expressed that wish to the police officials?
That I don't know. His brother indicated that to me, that he thought he ought to tell the truth about it.
Are the two brothers close, do you know?
I doubt it. Robert hasn't seen him since November a year ago. And they've been living right here within.
This man, it seems, wasn't close to anybody. Have you discovered any close friends in Dallas?
No, sir.